Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's bright and early. Daily discipline. Mind, body, and soul. This is how we get through. Let's talk about cult activity. I write novels, crime novels. I've written 2 about the Los Angeles Syndicate. The 3rd book in the series I've just started writing it, and it's taken kind of a turn from the plot of the last 2. Each of these 3 books is actually quite different from the other, although there is an overarching story that goes through all of them. You could read any one of these books on its own without reading another and still have a good time, still enjoy a story. But this 3rd one takes a dive into the occult world. So I've been studying a mega cult that exists, that it's around right now. It may be in your town. They're worldwide. And I'm going to use them as a model for my evil villains in this third novel, in this 3rd book I'm writing. So let's talk about the 12 tribes. There's a group called the 12 Tribes Community. They're a cult. Absolutely. They came out of the 1970s, late 1960s Jesus movement. There was a thing called the Jesus movement, embraced by hippies and people like that. You had the Moonies, that was one group, Reverend Moon. You had this 12 tribes that started, and it was started by this guy, I think his name was Eugene Spriggs. I don't have it written down in front of me, but I believe the leader of the original guy that started the group was Eugene Spriggs. Eugene was a pretty normal dude. Played football in high school. Did real estate, did a couple other things, joined the military. Pretty normal guy. He got heavy duty into religion and somehow started a cult, rather intentionally. But as a lot of these Jesus movement groups started, they evolved into more classical, traditional cults, and they have started off somewhat innocently, meaning that maybe there wasn't manipulation as the intention to start the group. The group may have started because of somebody's wacky idea, as weird as it may have been, and as twisted of an idea as it may have been, but it wasn't necessarily, the 12 tribes, from what my research, wasn't necessarily started as a way to hurt people or to rob people or to control people or whatever. It was just a bunch of hippies who were getting down with Jesus, and they called Jesus, not Yahweh, what do they call him? Yeshua or something. Jesus has a few names. They all have long hair, the men. They all have beards. The women have long hair too, so if you're a short-haired chick, you gotta grow your hair long. The men have beards. They're kind of, the 12 tribes are kind of a back to basics group in the way that the Amish or the Mennonites may be. They're real happy, positive types. They always want to hug all the time, and they're always like, bless you, brother and sister, and Jesus, and this and that, talking that kind of crap. I've met lots of people like this before. There's many groups like this, but the 12 tribes really got popular. Part of their popularity came from this restaurant that they started called the Yellow Deli. I believe the first Yellow Deli that was started was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where Eugene Spriggs was from. However, they have Yellow Delis all over the country, if not all over the world. There may be one in your town, you can Google it. There is one in Florida, I believe it's in Arcadia, Florida. That's not around here. But these Yellow Delis are all over the place. And many people, I've watched numerous documentaries and interviews of people that have been involved with this cult, with the 12 tribes. And I think almost all of them, most of them at least, talk about how they joined at the Yellow Deli. So if you go there, watch out. You may end up in a cult. Apparently it's just, I haven't been to one of these places, but I have looked at them online. It's just a regular restaurant. You can go there and buy their health food, whatever. I believe it's rather farm to table because these guys have their own farms. They own many businesses. This guy, Eugene Spriggs, he's real rich. He owns 2 or 3 different construction companies. He owns several farms. He owns an import-export company. He owns many retail stores. They're kind of like a hiking, camping store. He owns health food stores. Of course, he owns the Yellow Delis, of which there's numerous. It's a chain. They're everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but they're all over the place. His list of businesses goes on. Oh, they own a research and development firm, and in connection with the R&D firm, they own a factory, and the factory mainly produces bath and body products. Here's where the group gets a little weird. The 12 Tribes has probably about 3,000 members in America, families and all that. When you go and work at the Yellow Deli or join the 12 Tribes, you have to give up everything that's common for a cult. So you give up your name. They will rename you some wacky Hebrew name. So if your name is Jennifer, your new name is going to be Glicka or Shmuel or something weird. You give up all your money, all your possessions, everything you own and everything you possess. You may tear up your birth certificate. You may throw away your Social Security card. You will work for one of the companies that this guy Eugene Spriggs owns, and they're not going to pay you in a paycheck. They'll give you a place to live and food and things like that. Obviously, you can't have any kind of electronics or cell phone or connection to the outside world. If you ever want to go and see your family or take a vacation, that's not allowed. It's going to have to be voted on by the elders, but they'll send somebody with you, and a lot of cults do this, just to make sure that you come back. A little brainwashing manager to keep you brainwashed while you go visit your family or whatever. But most likely you're not going to leave. People who have been members of this, they leave their family and they don't see them again unless they leave the cult. They really capture you mentally, and people don't really seem to want to leave because they get so brainwashed, even with the abuse, and there's a lot of abuse. There's beatings. The kids and the women get beaten, severely beaten. There's this whole thing in the Bible, in Proverbs, I believe, about spare the, spoil the child, and spare the rod, whatever it is. So basically, they're beating people with rods, and they have these special rods. They show them in one documentary where a guy goes in with a hidden camera into their compound, one of their many compounds, and he shows their whipping rods, and they're like sticks that have been coated in what look like a varnish or a shellac of some type to make it harder. And you get caned, you get beaten from your collar line all the way down to your ankles. They'll beat you. Any infraction gets a beating. Every infraction gets a beating. And you beat your woman, you beat your kids, and I guess you can beat other people's women and other people's kids. They use the kids as slave labor in the soap factory, and the U.S. Marshal Service, I believe it was in 2018, I forget what state it was, it may have been Vermont or North Carolina, I forget where it was, but I read articles about this. They And this has been one of many raids, not the only raid, one of many. They raid these factories, these soap factories, where these kids, they have kids in there, a whole factory full of kids. This is here in America. And they'll pull out 40, 50, 60, 70 kids, 100 kids, who are all slave labor, beaten and forced to work 12 hours a day, that kind of thing, in factories. Little children, 5, 6-year-old children. It's their whole life. They don't go to doctors. If a woman is pregnant and she's going to have a baby, which happens all the time because they don't believe in any kind of contraception, she's not allowed to go to the doctor. So they have discovered mass graves on their compounds, mass graves of babies, because that shit happens. You need to have your baby in a hospital. I was born in a house. That's very dangerous. Without a doctor, that's very dangerous. You got to have your baby in a hospital, because the risk of something happening is so great. And there's been many cases of women who were desperate, begging to go to the doctor, and the elders, all men, are like, nope, nope, you can't do it. They're global, all throughout the world, South America, Australia, Europe, all over the world. If you see a yellow deli in it's the name of their restaurant. If you see a yellow deli in your town, that's the 12 tribes. The leader, the guy Eugene Spriggs, he just died in 2021. So I guess they're looking for a new leader. If you want to be a leader of a cult, go join the 12 tribes. They're looking for a leader. It's a big organization. They're one of the biggest, most sinister, most scary cults out there. Thanks for watching.